The most expensive flight a private jet makes may be the one that never leaves the ground. The airplane is sitting in a hangar. The engines are cold. There are no passengers, no fuel is being burned, and no airport is charging a landing fee. Yet money is still disappearing. The hangar is being rented. The pilots must remain trained and available. Insurance is active. Maintenance deadlines are moving closer. Software subscriptions, inspections, management fees, and depreciation continue whether the aircraft flies or not. That is the first thing you discover after buying a private jet. You did not simply purchase transportation. You took control of a miniature airline whose only guaranteed customer is you. The dream is easy to understand. No security lines, no connections, no waiting for the airline to decide when you can leave. You choose the airport, the passengers, and the departure time. But the financial logic begins with a less glamorous question. What mission does the aircraft actually need to perform? A plane that regularly carries 4 people between nearby cities is a completely different machine from one that must take 12 passengers across an ocean. Range, runway length, luggage, weather, cabin height, fuel reserves, and the number of crew members all change the answer. Buy too little airplane and it cannot complete the trips that justified buying it. Buy too much airplane and you pay every day for range and cabin space you rarely use. This is why the term private jet is financially almost meaningless. Small new personal jets can cost several $1,000,000. Light and mid-size business jets climb into the tens of millions. New long-range flagships can cost more than $80 million, while converted airliners can pass 100 million. The used market stretches much lower, but a lower purchase price does not necessarily mean a cheaper aircraft. The number on the sales agreement is only the cost of entering the system. From that moment, the aircraft begins producing 2 things at the same time: convenience for the owner and liabilities for the balance sheet. The first liability is depreciation. A new aircraft normally loses value fastest during its early years, although the exact curve changes with the model, the economy, production levels, and demand for used jets. An aircraft that is popular, supported by its manufacturer, and enrolled in maintenance programs may retain value better. A discontinued model with scarce parts, outdated avionics, or engines approaching expensive work can fall much faster. This creates the first paradox. The newest aircraft offers the best technology and the longest remaining life, but it also exposes the owner to the steepest part of the value decline. A used aircraft may have already absorbed much of that decline, but its attractive price can conceal scheduled work that the previous owner is about to hand over to you. 2 jets can look almost identical on a sales website and have radically different economic value. One may have engines covered by a paid maintenance program, complete records, modern avionics, and years remaining before major work. The other may be approaching engine inspections, have missing documentation, and require upgrades before it can operate efficiently in the airports and airspace you need. The second aircraft is not necessarily a bargain. It may simply be an invoice wearing wings. That is why a serious buyer does not begin with the leather seats. The process begins with the logbooks, engine status, damage history, inspection schedule, and an independent pre-purchase examination. The aircraft is not valuable because it looks new. It is valuable because its condition, compliance, and future obligations can be proven. Now consider the bills that arrive before the first trip. The aircraft needs somewhere to live. Hangar prices vary enormously by airport and region, but premium business aviation airports can turn storage into a major annual expense. Keeping the aircraft outside may be cheaper, but weather exposure can create other costs and reduce its condition over time. Then comes insurance. The premium depends on the value and type of aircraft, how it will be used, where it will fly, and the experience of the pilots. An owner cannot assume that buying a jet automatically means an insurer will approve any crew or any operation. Then comes the flight department. Most business jets are operated by 2 professional pilots. Larger or longer missions may require additional crew and a cabin attendant. Salaries are only the beginning. Training must be repeated. Medical certificates must remain current. Benefits, travel, scheduling, and relief coverage all cost money. If one pilot is unavailable, the owner still expects the airplane to move. Many owners outsource this entire operation to a management company. The company hires and schedules crew, tracks maintenance, manages invoices, coordinates airports, and keeps the operation compliant. That simplifies ownership, but it adds another fixed charge. You are paying someone to manage the machine that manages your time. Maintenance is where simple estimates become dangerous. Business jets do not all follow one universal ladder of lettered checks. Their inspections are governed by the manufacturer, regulators, equipment status, calendar dates, flight hours, and flight cycles. Some tasks become due because the aircraft flew. Others become due because time passed while it sat still. Engines can be covered by hourly maintenance programs that convert part of a future overhaul into a predictable payment for every hour flown. That reduces the chance of a sudden multi-million-dollar shock, but it does not make maintenance free. It moves part of the risk into a recurring bill. Airframe programs, avionics subscriptions, navigation databases, connectivity systems, paint, interiors, tires, brakes, batteries, and unexpected faults all remain part of the equation. This is why an old jet can be cheap to buy and expensive to own. Its market price may fall faster than the cost of keeping it airworthy. At some point, the engines, parts, inspections, and upgrades can be worth more than the airplane itself. The owner has purchased an asset whose replacement value is high, but whose resale market may be very small. Only after all of those fixed obligations are in place do we begin paying to fly. Every hour in the air adds fuel, maintenance reserves, landing charges, handling, navigation fees, catering, and sometimes de-icing. A trip can also include repositioning. The aircraft may fly empty to collect the owner, wait at an expensive airport, and fly empty again after dropping the passengers off. The owner experiences one useful journey. The aircraft may perform 2 or 3 movements to provide it. Fuel is usually the most visible variable expense, but it is not the only one. A larger aircraft burns more fuel, carries more expensive systems, uses larger airports, and creates larger maintenance reserves. That means choosing a jet for the most extreme trip you might take can make every ordinary trip unnecessarily expensive. The central calculation is not simply cost per flight hour. It is fixed cost, divided by actual use, plus the variable cost of each hour. Imagine a mid-size aircraft with annual fixed operating costs of about $900,000. This is an illustrative example, not a universal quote. Suppose its fuel, maintenance reserves, and other variable costs average another $3,000 for each flight hour. If the owner flies 100 hours in a year, the variable cost is approximately $300,000. Add the fixed costs, and the operation consumes about $1,200,000. That equals roughly $12,000 for every useful flight hour, before financing and depreciation are included. Now fly the same aircraft for 300 hours. The variable cost rises to about $900,000, and the total operating cost reaches roughly $1,800,000. But the effective cost falls to about $6,000 per hour because the fixed expenses are spread across more use. The aircraft did not become cheaper to operate. The owner simply stopped wasting as much of its capacity. This is the asymmetry at the center of ownership. Charter customers pay when they fly. Owners pay for the right to fly, even when they stay home. The National Business Aviation Association uses roughly 250 annual flight hours as a general point at which full ownership can become a sensible option, while acknowledging that some companies buy with fewer hours because control, privacy, security, or scheduling flexibility creates enough value. There is no universal break-even number. Aircraft type, trip length, empty positioning, local charter availability, financing, tax treatment, and the value of the passenger's time can move the answer dramatically. For a person flying 50 or 100 hours a year, chartering may produce a higher hourly invoice, but a lower total commitment. There is no hangar to fund, no crew to keep available, no maintenance event to absorb, and no aircraft to sell later. For a company flying several hundred hours, especially to smaller airports on complex multi-city schedules, ownership may create value that does not appear in a simple charter comparison. The return is not necessarily cheaper transportation. The return may be control. Owners who dislike the fixed cost burden often try to make the aircraft earn money when they are not using it. A management company can place the jet on a commercial charter certificate and sell trips to outside customers. Revenue from those flights can offset part of the crew, hangar, and management expense. But the revenue is not free. Charter adds hours and cycles, accelerates maintenance, increases wear, complicates scheduling, and may reduce the owner's access during popular travel periods. It can also affect resale condition. The aircraft earns money today by moving closer to tomorrow's inspection. Fractional ownership moves the problem in a different direction. Instead of buying the entire aircraft, a customer buys access to a share of a fleet and a defined amount of annual flying. The operator handles aircraft, crews, positioning, and maintenance. Jet cards remove ownership entirely and sell prepaid access to flight time. Richard Santulli introduced the modern fractional model in 1986. His insight was that most individual aircraft spent too much time waiting for one owner. A network could share capacity across many customers and use a larger fleet to place the right airplane near the right passenger. That network eventually became part of one of the most revealing stories in private aviation. In 1998, Berkshire Hathaway acquired Executive Jet, the company operating the NetJets program, for approximately $725 million. About $350 million was paid in cash, with the remainder paid in Berkshire stock. Warren Buffett already knew the product because he had been a customer. The service was valuable. The economics were much harder. In Berkshire's letter covering 2009, Buffett wrote that NetJets had accumulated an aggregate pre-tax loss of $157 million during Berkshire's first 11 years of ownership. Its debt had risen from about $102 million at acquisition to roughly $1,900 million by April of 2009. Buffett stated that without Berkshire's guarantee of that debt, NetJets would have been out of business. This did not prove that private aviation had no value. It proved that valuable service can still sit on top of a brutal cost structure. Aircraft, crews, training, maintenance, and customer promises remain expensive during weak demand. A large fleet creates efficiency, but it also creates obligations that do not politely disappear during a downturn. Tax treatment can soften the purchase cost, but it cannot repair bad operating economics. Under current United States rules, certain qualified business property acquired and placed in service after January 19, 2025, may be eligible for 100% additional first-year depreciation. Business aircraft can qualify, but the tests are detailed. The aircraft must satisfy business use requirements, every flight and passenger must be classified correctly, records must be maintained, and later changes in use can create depreciation recapture. Most importantly, a deduction is not a refund for the airplane. It reduces taxable income. The owner still spends the money, still carries the asset, still pays to operate it, and may owe tax consequences later. A tax benefit can improve a sound purchase. It cannot transform an unnecessary jet into a profitable investment. So when does buying actually make sense? It makes sense when the mission is frequent, predictable, and valuable. Imagine a company whose leaders must regularly visit factories, clients, and sites that are poorly served by airlines. If the aircraft allows several meetings in different cities during one day, protects confidential work, and returns the team home the same night, the time saved may be worth more than the operating cost. It makes much less sense when the purchase is built around an imagined schedule. An owner expects to fly 300 hours, but real life produces 90. The pilots, hangar, insurance, and management bill remain. The jet sits still while depreciation continues. What looked like freedom becomes a very expensive obligation to invent reasons to travel. The correct comparison is therefore not private jet versus airline ticket. It is ownership versus charter, fractional access, jet cards, and sometimes simply using commercial aviation. The winner changes with the mission. A private jet is not automatically a foolish purchase, and it is not automatically a symbol of brilliant success. It is infrastructure. It converts large, continuous financial commitments into control over location and time. The purchase works only when that control creates more value than the aircraft consumes. The final question is not whether you can afford the price written on the jet. It is whether your real calendar can justify the organization that must exist around it every day after the sale. If you want more stories about businesses and assets that look simple from the outside, but become fascinating once the money starts moving, subscribe. The next expensive object we take apart may be the one everyone else still thinks is easy money.